for giving us this opportunity to chat what we think are important issues to discuss. And we're very happy to be here in such an important historical place. It's my belief that history will speak about this place because of what it means, or because of its role in the education of a generation of militants, because of its role on getting militants of different generations together, because of its role of providing a central place for people who want to get involved, because of its role teaching us discipline and educating ourselves, being able to keep this here for almost 2 years without having any disruption from the cops that are looking for any excuse. 24/7 requires a level of discipline that we need to learn. Also, the transformation that we have seen on the comrades there and how they can help us comrade. Because of all of it, we are very, very pleased, very grateful to be here. So this is going to be a little bit informal. First of all, an introduction. I'm going to speak a little bit, but also share. But I want to introduce you. Well, my name is Yonatan Mosquera. I'm from Colombia. I'm an activist against imperialism. And this is Miriam Palacios. Miriam Palacios is a veteran of the Cuban Revolution, still a revolutionary, who has a lot of youth, accumulated youths, you know, different versions of youth within herself. So very young, many times young. So our comrade is also a scientist. And then I'm just going to let her start now. So thank you, Miriam Palacios.
Okay. It is an honor for me to be here among all of you. And because it's a place, as Jonathan said, for learning and educating ourselves and learning from each other. And that is something that I have really appreciate of the struggle here in the United Kingdom. Because we find people from all over the world. And we have things in common. We have been oppressed, well, not me in Cuba, but it's the exploitation of the working class, of the people that have less money and live in poor conditions. And all of that make us something in common and something to able to understand each other. I would like to mention topics that are natural to you and you mentioned, but giving a little bit of a touch of Cuba. First of all, as he said, I am a worker of science. They call here scientist, but in Cuba we feel that we are working class. And the science in Cuba is to serve the community, is to serve the people of Cuba. It's not to create an elite people. We have the opportunity to study hard, to go to other countries to learn and to bring that back to Cuba. Then your experience is a little bit different than mine, because I grew up for building a new society. I was not called myself activist, and I learned from you to be an activist here. But what can I put on all of that? Because the generation before me in Cuba struggled and had to fight for me and for my generation to have a better life. And from then we know that the courage, the way of thinking, the dedication came from the struggle. The struggle of the revolution and what they did during the time in the mountains, that they have to fight against the Batista. Batista was, for those who doesn't know, a dictatorship, a proper dictatorship that took by military coup the country and abuse. I remember I was born in 1952, but the time of revolution was 1959, and I remember the panic you have when you see a police. And because that was what we feel in Cuba, and that's why the revolutionary movement in the mountains have the support of the whole population, because the country were living in a very tyrannic way. That tells us as well that when the situation are critical, is a ferment to the revolutionary to grow. the people, the community started to learn and find an explanation why they are in the way they are and they shouldn't be. And those that come first to school, this kind of a school, this kind of education, learning from each other, are the one also that have to give and get to those communities and teach and give a new perspective of they don't need to be like this. In my experience here, and recently, but from the war in Iraq, is how much you learn and how much your body energized from the march. The march is something, is a space for synchronizing ourselves in the way we think, in passing each other the strength to continue fighting, to know that there are other people that are giving their life to change the way they live, for having justice. And we learned that, and during the march, for me, march are something that I cannot live without, because it's a way of getting the sense inside my body of the injustice in other people. But between march, we have to do these things. We have to learn why, the critical thinking of why things happen and how to tackle all these problems. And this is in the debate. That's why today this is a conversation, and I would like to you probably know, because everybody knows about Cuba a lot. Cuba have been struggling since 1959, and I was a child still, but there were things that made our society, and that is why also some people don't understand why the Cubans resist. Cubans resist because we have been for all of this year fighting constantly one thing after the other one. But it's the whole community united on that and finding in each other the support to continue and to educate others. The first things that the Cuban Revolution did, and it made an impact in the whole society, was the literacy campaign, the literacy campaign, by which students at secondary school went to the countryside, mainly from Havana or cities in the rest of that never ever have been in the rural part of Cuba. And for the first time, they left the home in a very comfortable condition to live with the rural people, with the peasants, and teach them under the roof to learn how to read and write. But at the same time, they learn how to cook, the girls, the boys learn to how to milk the cow, and it was an exchange of experience. The person that goes through that for the rest of their life will learn how to be independent, how to do something for the community, how to give something of yourself to others to make them independent as well. And one of the persons that recently talked about that was the singer Silvio Rodriguez, that he said how much that did in his life, doing something for the society, and that he have him. And also once, working as a scientist 14 hours a day, I sent a letter to Silvio Rodriguez and say, thank you for helping me educating my children, because I have little time at home, but the sons of Silvio Rodriguez educate my children. And this is how each other support. Then this is a thing of education. Education help us to understand the information more in those days that the media use the internet to pass information that is not real but look real, especially with Venezuela, that have been really treated very badly, because they put in a way that you started to feel doubt of others, when we have to give each other the strength and the support and understanding. Each country, each revolution have their own characteristic. It's our culture. In each of our, Cuba is different than Venezuela, and we are the same. We are different than Iraq, Iran, but we are the same. And sometimes they go through the media, through the information, for the things that make us different, to put one against each other and created that you are not really that deep revolutionary. And that comes to the next point. And also, during these things, we have to learn to work together. We have to learn that there are different ways that each of us learn from left movement. But we only have to have one thing in mind. Our enemy is one, the imperialism. Because the imperialism is the enemy of people, the people, or people all over the world. They live out of them. They are like parasites. They need to suck the capital, the resources, whatever they live on, and they not only to the human being but from nature. It's just extractivism. They contaminate waters, and Latin America is a continent that really has suffered the extractivism of the imperial and the monopolies and the companies that go to extract the resources. Then the information, the education, the way of being the common in us go to that we need to have to fight in one front all together, because we have only one enemy. All the rest are ways that you see things. Maybe if you see things different than me, let's talk. Maybe I have half the reason, you have another half of the reason. But it's important to understand each other and march as one front in the march, but in the real life as well, and start doing things. I will not go through more of these things, but what I would like to say, and I want to read something, because it, for me, was something very important of the Cuban Revolution. Yeah. We have we own to the generation to come what we do now. Because if we don't act, we don't give us, I would like to be resting at my age, but it's not time for that. We have to keep going and take with us the young people and try to explain why. We have, sometimes there is speech for working class, and there are people that they don't think themselves that they are working class. And they don't think that speech is with others, but you are a victim of the system. And there are many people in this population that are victims of the system. They are poverty here, a country that shouldn't have. And maybe if we visit the food bank, we will find people that we can enlighten them to think and to have hope for the future. Not only cry and live of benefits when they have by themselves able to create beautiful things, as we did, we tried to do in Cuba. The culture of collective work is very strong in Cuba, and this is also one of the strengths of why Cuba has survived, because it's a support of each other with the community, and people don't enjoy things if they don't share this sort of things and thinking. We are very open, and we have argument and discrepancy. They say, don't they put you in prison if you say, no, people say things that you cannot imagine openly, especially if they are angry. But they, I said that it was we have been suffering a lot, but when the 32 bodies of the Cuban soldiers that were killed in Venezuela, defending Maduro, defending the revolution of the La Patria Grande, the commotion in the population of Cuba was enormous. People went out under the raining to pay honor to that, and people got so back again to say, don't dare Trump to put a foot here, because you will not, as we say in Latin America, no pasarán. No pasarán. I talked too much. revolution, I want to read something that for me is very important, because in all of this struggle, I always say to people, we are fighting, but will be a time, maybe I don't see, but time will come where things will occur very quickly, and when you are in power, what you're going to do with the mess that they left behind. Then we have to work, fight, but at the same time think what is the world that we want for our children, for other generations. What we have to do now, how to pass to people, love each other, the community sense, the love and consideration for nature. You have a country suffering of the blockade, but in Cuba it's a culture of ecosystem, eco school, eco garden. People have that sense of protecting the nature. I'm sorry. But very, very, very easy to for me. I'm free, sorry. And then that is what I want to read this part. The Cuban Revolution, la revolución armada.
Yeah, the armed struggle.
Armed struggle, yes,
Armed struggle.
was relatively short for the period and was very effective. But what the Ejército Rebelde in Cuba did was the following. They create a mini state in which they create the kind of country they would like to create. And I will read, because it is in Ecu Red, which is the encyclopedia of Cuba, and internet. And it's the best for me to know something about Cuba, because it's made by historians and all of that. Organization of the revolutionary mini-state. In the vast rebel territory, Raúl, the brother of Fidel, created and organized the Department of Justice, Rebel Health, or the system of health, public work, which means building houses, a center for propaganda and inspection of those heads. Oh gosh, I can't read.
Okay, it's only 5 years difference. Whose heads were Captains Augusto Martinez, Jose Machado, Oriente Fernandez, Jorge Cerguera, Manuel Piñero, and Lieutenant René León. The Department of Education was also created with Acela de los Santos at the head, and the Agrarian Bureau, directed by Jorge Cerguera, and later the Workers' Bureau, headed by Antonio Torres, Nico. Raúl said, "Now we are like a small revolutionary state within another."
Yes.
Yeah? In his 9 months and 20 days of life, the second Eastern Front Frank País, that was the name of the second Eastern Front Frank País, led by Commander Raúl Castro, 231 barracks and posts of the Rural Guard, in addition to occupying some 2,000 weapons from the enemy. The territory liberated at the end of the war reached about 123,000 square kilometers, with a population of 500,000 inhabitants. He organized 20 hospitals and field medical posts. Some 400 schools were created, and hundreds of kilometers of roads and telephone lines were built. Within the war tax, more than 2 million pesos, Cuban pesos, were collected, which were used to purchase weapons abroad and support the front. Important events were held, such as the Peasant Congress in Arms on September 21 and the Workers' Congress in Arms on December the 8th. The achievements of the Second Front were the result of the efforts of its heroic combatants, leaders and officers, added to the military and organizational capacity, created initiative and a strategic and political vision of Commander Raúl Castro, who was only 27 years old in a speech, 27. In a speech by Commander-in-Chief in Guantanamo on the anniversary of July 26, he stated that the Second Front, led by Raúl Castro, have been a model of organization and a very important contribution to the cause of the country's liberation. In the multiple battles carried out, 243 heroes fell, whose remains rest today in the mausoleum of the front.
No, esto es en español. That is why it was so important not only to fight, but to create an area in which the peasants were educated. They learned how to read and write and became later figures important in the Cuban revolutionary, the socialist Cuba. You cannot change from one state to the other one if you don't go through the process of understanding why. You don't impose the system, because a system that is imposed will never work. You have to learn from your own experience and in a process in which you trust your leaders. And that is why it's so important that during these days of struggle, we get the most of educating ourselves, exchanging, having a collective thinking, and in getting, because everyone is able to give value to the thinking. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. So, Comrade Miriam Palacios, I think one of the things where I have understood a little bit of what Comrade Miriam has been saying is the importance of organization. We see it here, we see there goes some rota sheets, they got some sort of system going on here. There is no way of doing any collective activity among humans unless you organize yourself somehow. What kind of organization, it depends on the job, on what you have to do, but you have to organize somehow. So Comrade Miriam is still a revolutionary, understanding this very well. It still belongs to organizations, and the organization she belongs to in the UK now is Plataforma 12 de Octubre, says as myself and other comrades who are here as well, because of the importance to remain organized. Whatever the task is, if you're going to involve other human beings, you need to organize. So, okay. So now my time now. I won't take much time because I think the important thing is going to be a lot of questions and answers. I think that's the most important thing. So, following up from what Comrade Miriam said, I'm from Colombia, and I'm part of being educated by the Latin American Revolutionary. We're educated by Silvio Rodriguez, by his songs. His songs become anthems, and they become educational rallies, and they become points of struggle and argumentation that you make for generations to generations, and they're still valid today. We grew up in that culture as very young activists or revolutionaries or whatever we thought we were at that time. For example, when the comrade was explaining about helping each other, it came to mind the importance of this camp and the importance of the world today. Because what we're living through now is a world in which imperialism is lashing out. It has shed away all the previous masks, and in order to impose their new march towards fascism and war, because World War III, the opening guns of World War III have already been shot. World War III has already started, unless we stop it. Wars don't start one day when they say, let's declare World War II. That's not what happened. World War II started in 1918, when World War I finished. And then officially, it was 1931 when Hitler invaded Poland. But World War II started in 1918. World War I started in at least 1895 when the Spanish Empire lost their empire to the Americans, and the new American empire was rising. At that moment, First World War was inevitable. And then we saw what happened in the Balkans, etc., and we have First World War. That moment that we're living now is the moment in which Third World War is inevitable unless we stop it. And those who can stop it are only the organized working class of the world, because it's only the people of the world who have an interest in stopping it. Those who live off imperialism, of warfare, have no interest. Their existence depends on the eternal continuation of war. So our relationship with the Cuban revolutionaries, with the Palestinian, everything is so deep, and when we speak to everyone here, we will have a story that will connect us. For example, Fidel Castro, in 1948, as a young student, he was young, you know. Once, I know people have the idea of the beer, but he was a young, and since he was very young, he was revolutionary. Long before the beer and all that, he was a revolutionary, and he was a student, and having a nose for the revolution, because that's one of the skills of revolutionary leaders is having a nose. He went to Bogota, to Colombia, and got his first education. The first time Fidel Castro picked up a weapon was in Bogota. And it was in 1948 when the CIA, for the first time, attempted an operation of regime change, when they killed Gaitan, who was the next candidate who was going to win the elections, Gaitan, Jorge Eliezer Gaitan, in the 1930s, who had been a lawyer in the 1928 massacre of United Fruit Company by the Americans, who massacred hundreds of workers in a stadium. They called him to negotiate the Banana Fruit Company, and they massacred them. The lawyer then became a candidate. Fidel Castro was there. He picked up weapons to help the depot of the students when the rebellion happened, when the CIA killed this guy. There was a rebellion in Colombia, then a civil war, and a long story. Fidel Castro, when then was rescued by some people there, some Colombians, who then tell the story, Fidel, after being rescued and smuggled out of Colombia, explain, thanks to you, we could do the grammar and everything. Everything is related. Fidel Castro explained later and say, if they haven't rescued me there, I don't know, I wouldn't have been in grammar. We don't know what they... So this is what it is. So when they want us to think that what we do doesn't matter, what we do matters. That man in Colombia who was helping to rescue Fidel Castro did not know the role of history he will play. But he was following his instincts, and he knew what needed to be done. That is what is important. We don't need to know exactly how history one day in the future is going to put our contribution. Oh, did you stop the war? No, that we don't need to know that. But what we need to know is to follow, to have a clear program, and we do what we need to do. And then history will later assign responsibilities and whatever, and it will be, the big majority will be anonymous. The big majority, and that's how revolution works. The big majority of revolutionaries, you will never gonna hear their names, because the revolution is made by millions. So you hear a few names, and we learn from them, but we learn from everybody else, the anonymous mainly. So the world we live in on now is going towards fascism and war inevitably. And the reason they want to destroy Cuba is not because of Cuba hasn't got petrol, it's just got sugar and tobacco, which is worth nothing. It isn't about Cubans' resources. The amount of effort and hatred against Cuba and decades in campaign against Cuba demonization is not about the little economic thing that is much bigger than that. Che Guevara explained why they hate the Cuban Revolution. They hate us because, like Comrade was explaining, they hate us because we showed the oppressed what you can do. Yeah. They hate us because we showed them that a different world is possible, and that what they want to do is to blockade us, starve us, and show everybody else, and show us as a punishment, this is what happens to you when you rebel. But the Cuban Revolution, and he also explains this, the Cubans didn't make a revolution because they were special. No, he said, the revolution made the Cubans special. He said, the Cubans make themselves in the revolution, and the revolution transformed them the same way as many people here are not the same people they were 2 years ago. 2 years of being here has made you into someone else. And that we becoming somebody else is what these guys fear the most. And that's why they hate Cuba so much. Because they relied on our own idea of ourselves, that we are the oppressed, that we cannot defend ourselves. What they're doing to Iran today, it required decades of preparing the people to demonize Iran, so we don't hear anything. And then when the 150 children, girls, schoolgirls, are incinerated alive within 5 minutes, we don't, A lot of people, majority of the people, don't hear about it because of the long campaign of desensitization to tell us how to think about ourselves. Israel plays an important role in this through pushing the Gaza prerogative, and that's why Israel is so important to decaying imperialism now. We had the Monroe Doctrine. I'll really be very fast. Okay, but the Monroe Doctrine happened 200 years ago when the United States was at the bottom. It wasn't big enough to fight Europe. Now we have the Monroe Doctrine. There is a difference. The United States is the top dog. Though Monroe Doctrine was don't colonize the Americas, now is we are the only ones who colonize the Americas and destroying it. For that, they need to continue with the garrison states, which is that what European imperialism has done. Cuba and Latin America were founded, according to them, in 1492 with the first garrison state by Columbus. They are a garrison imperialism that they, in their minds, the garrison state by Columbus was the birth of the Americas. So they spread the power like that. Israel is the ultimate garrison state. And everything they do is an outpost, a military outpost of imperialism. Pushing the Gaza prerogatives, pushing the right of imperialism to be a garrison state. Marco Rubio, Cuban as well, openly say in that conference in Davos or wherever it is these rich people meet, a week or 2 weeks ago, that we, meaning the imperialists, should not be ashamed of our role, historical role as colonialists. We have a manifest destiny. We are entitled to rule them because the barbarians. He literally said this in his own words. Because that's the Israel prerogative. Because is the only choice. The regime is so degenerated that is what they resorted to. But the other side of it is that what we do really matters. What we do really matters. They don't want us to think of the other side of it. When the system is in such crisis, it's lashing out everywhere, is where what we do matters the most. 15 years ago, we will be saying similar things, standing on the rain, and only 2 people and 3 people will stop and will only speak to them. And for the next 2 weeks, we will be thinking about what is it that's going on the news, what we're going to talk about, how we're going to get people again. That's over. Imperialism's relentless campaign after the Gaza prerogative has meant that people cannot afford to go home, and you guys are still mobilized and we're still campaigning. Now we have this audience and now we have this shot. So we have to make good use of it. Thank you. And now, questions and answers, sorry.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for coming, speaking to us. Just a quick question. Could you tell me what your views are on how Rodriguez is handling Venezuela? You know, the vice president who became... I know. You looked a bit blank. Sorry, I thought I got the name wrong.
Delcy Rodriguez.
Yeah, Delcy.
For me? The question was for me? Okay.
Oh, you
I
want your-
give you my opinion. I have a big respect, enormous respect for a country like Venezuela that have carried out a revolution very deep, educating masses and to learn learn how the value of themselves in building their new society. What we had in Venezuela is the demonstration of how asymmetric was the confrontation. No, was not the confrontation. If you think what the United States did through the story, but told that they were looking for drugs and they were killing fishermen or whatever, they never proved. They just assassinate people that were on the sea. No, they didn't have any interest to find any proof. They're just innocent because there was no proof otherwise, and they killed them. They were caught for weeks, and they have high technology. They have there big enormous technology in those big ships controlling everything in Venezuela. Caracas is very close to the sea. It's not a capital that is deep and protected. It's really, they managed to take maximum information and use high technology to deactivate the system, to put in blackout the country. And that is not exactly the question you asked, but that gives you the introduction or putting in perspective, thank you, the fact that Venezuela is not a country prepared for defending or for winning a fight that they were in front of them. And they have to work very careful, holding and keeping whatever. America, Trump, think that they will easily take the control of the oil in Venezuela, and the oil is the beginning, because it's the gold and the resources of such a rich country like Venezuela. But Delcy Rodriguez already have explained the Day of the Women Days, I think, what was the situation and why they cannot confront the imperialism in terms of saying let's face it and let's fight. They cannot do, and that's why each country have their own conditions. There was not the Playa Girón that we have in Cuba, the Bay of Pigs, that in 72 hours we liquidate them. Because it was different. We cannot ask Venezuela to do the same thing. They will be wiping the country, because they have the technology and the country have the value, the strength, the conviction of the people, but they cannot compete with this asymmetric power. This is an abuse, totally an abuse, and it's not easy for Delcy Rodriguez to handle the situation without generating a massacre for the people of Venezuela. And at least she's saying very clear that the Chevron, which is the company that have been for years, because Venezuela have been selling oil, they are stealing, they are taking and they not paying back, which are pirates. They don't have principle. They take, get to the country and got what they want. There is no power from Venezuela to contrarrest that to try to keep the condition. The moment will come, and you have to size, that is another thing in the struggle. You have to be ready for the opportunity to make the change, but not before, not letting pass either. And I have absolutely trust the leadership of Venezuela and the people, because they have been also understanding what the country and the leader of the country are doing. You don't find people saying what and why. They know what is going on, the things are explained, and it's difficult. It's difficult, and will be easy to say, yes, I will confront you, but if you don't have condition, it's sending your country to rubble, and then they take it. And then they take it, because the possibility to win against the technology they have, and they are putting, they didn't do that in Cuba. They send the Cuban mercenaries, the one that left the country. And because I have to go back in a way that to put in perspective, thank you for didn't get the word, how each country have different situation and in different time. United States kept the float, the army away, and the mission of the Cubans that were living in Miami, going into the country, was to create a small government, and then they will ask for America to come, and they will happen. But Cuba solved dissolved the people very quickly in less than 72 hours. The militia, everybody was. I was a little girl. We were 10 cousins, and all the parents of us, we were with the grandparent. All of them were in different places. We didn't saw for a week. Everybody was fighting. All adults were fighting. They took them for surprise. And the people in the United States believe that Kennedy was killed because the Cuban counter-revolutionary felt that he didn't disembark and attack Cuba. Then that was our fate. We managed to use the opportunity that we have every people understanding, everybody mobilized, and the soldiers that came that was training in Guatemala and Nicaragua, they were cowards. And when you don't have principle and you are coward, the people just exterminate you. But we didn't kill them. We changed them for food. and it was very that what happened. But it's not the situation of Venezuela. And we have to not let the media distort things, because the first thing Trump said that she's my friend, she's not and will never be.
Thank you. I just want to adapt to that I think that it's going to be a while we know what happened with Rodriguez, and I think it's important to discuss it. However, that isn't, they want us to think that that's the discussion. The discussion here isn't what Delcy Rodriguez is done or not done, whether the government in Tehran is like this or is the other way. That isn't. They always want us to think that that's the discussion here. The discussion here is that whatever the government in Venezuela is forced to do, we need to always, because when we ask about a position, what's your position on something, we need to think about position geographically and politically, geopolitically. We're in London, we're in the UK. These guys were the ones who helped starving the Venezuelans. They were the ones who helped demonizing Maduro so he could be kidnapped, and all this will happen. So these guys, British imperialism, US imperialism. So we keep our fire on them, and I think that maybe once the dust is gone, we will know a little bit more about what happened in Venezuela, because I read, I'm not that old, don't say I remember, but I read about Allende. When Fidel Castro was in Chile, he stayed there for almost 3 weeks. He was explaining many things, was saying, don't trust the bourgeoisie. Allende was saying, let's go the way of the bourgeoisie. Don't trust them because they will violate their own institutions that they invented. Just like they violate their own United Nations that they invented to serve themselves. Exactly. But this is the same they do with their own bourgeoisie and bourgeois elections. And Fidel was right. History proved Fidel right. The defeat in Chile when Pinochet came is such a, and we have to be honest, such big defeat that Chile has not been recovered yet. The party in Chile is still, no disrespect for my comrades in Chile, but the party in Chile is still crying over trees and thinking about memory. The defeat has been brutal for the working class in Chile. The defeat has been brutal, and at that time many people did, and it took a while to think about it. Now I'm not saying that the Venezuelan defeat will be that brutal. I'm not saying the U.S. controls foreign trade and foreign policy of Venezuela. They're in charge of that. It's not controlled from Caracas, and Caracas have to do what they have to do. So we don't blame them. We blame imperialism. But we continue asking these questions so long as these questions don't determine that.
It's, the imperialism has its way. And if we remember Che Guevara saying that you don't trust the imperialism, not a piece like this, because it's always something. Is it Trump? Trump? Yes? You think that...
It's a trap.
A trap.
Trap.
You think that it's going to be better because that they are reasoning, no. Behind that is always a trap and a knife in your back. Always.
sorry, I get quite deflated when I hear all this. So I think, like, what can we do? What can we do? You know, like, I just feel like they're picking off the last remnants of anyone standing up to the American, Israeli, Western war pig, petrodollar machine. What can we do here? Please, give me an answer.
Look, there is something that we cannot afford is to be pessimist. And
But what do we do?
No, wait. The nature of human, of living, we are another in the kin of animals. We work in group, we work collectively, we are designed for that. We are designed to interact as other animals with nature. And the way the imperialism in his last phase of fascism, as was Hitler at the time, goes so wrong against the human being that they will not be able to survive. The sad thing of that, and I am sorry for that, is that there will be victims, as we have seen now in Iraq, in Iran, in Palestine. In Palestine, you see, what is this world? Seeing that, and Cuba, yes, and Cuba. And we are going in a very bad situation. And the people in Cuba, I call my family almost every day. And I say, I want to go there. I say, no, you help us more over there. Because they trust, they have mechanisms. You know, sometimes when you live in this society, you don't have light and you think that you're going to die. You don't have water. And Cuba, my son, when he went to live in Canada, he was a young man, went to do the PhD, and in the building say, we are not going to have electricity because, and everybody panicked. And my son that was 21 said, look, you collect this and put the whole building to do things for 24 hours of no electricity. It's not crying, it's not making a fuss, it's just, what can I do? And sort it. And the success, I am a scientist, the success that Cuban scientists has abroad is because they, in front of the problem, they look for solutions. And you have to be, it's hard, we are in hard time. We are witnessing things, our children, my grandchildren, that are hard, but worse as well in other times. And we are going to come out of that. But meantime, we have to learn, to study, to educate ourselves, to build the optimism and don't feel defeated because we are right and they are wrong.
Yes.
By definition of nature, unless they wanted to be robots.
Again, by 20 seconds. So yes, I don't feel deflated. I actually see it the other way around. Look, yes, it's true that the United States have this fantastic technology over the Venezuelans, but that has always been the case for at least 200 years. For 200 years, they have always been, okay, there's different technology now, but it has never been the case that we ever hoped to have the same level of military destruction. We don't even want that. We don't want the revolution so that we can be as destructive an arsenal like the United States. That's not even what we want. So by definition, we are not and don't want to be militarily equal to the US. That's never happened. So the military superiority, don't be deflated. That's always been the case. That's not the decisive thing. The decisive thing is the politics. What made a difference between Playa Girón in 61 and in 3rd of January in Caracas 26 is political. So we will find the answer in the politics. What kind of leadership was here, what kind of leadership was there, what's going on in the world, but not in the weapons. They having the weapons superior, that has always happened. That's never been the case. And talking about that, it reminds me of a very important topic now. Another reason for not being deflated is that they're educating us. It's not true that the revolutionaries or those who are activists or whatever have the job to educating everybody one by one. No, we have the job of being there. But the real education, they do it for us. They educating us in many things. For example, they educating us on the weapons of the poor. When Raúl Castro was asked to take the landmines outside of Guantanamo, yes, he said by Prince Diana, pretending to be all liberal, you know, so-called Prince Diana, say no. These are the weapons that we defend what we defend ourselves with. The Iranians defend what they can defend themselves with. And there are the political things, obviously, you could have another opinion about the kind of government that is in Iran. But this will not be decided by the weapons alone. So don't be deflated. The education they're giving us is very important. They are preparing their own graveyard because there is another consequence of them having given up the mask of the UN and everything. They can no longer fool the amount of people they used to fool before. Yeah. A lot of people, including among us, a few years ago, would have been told, no, we need the UN to go in a resolution. And they would be watching the news, hey, listen, there was a resolution. I think we got it now. But that's over. Nobody cares about it. Nobody cares. They're going to waste their time with all that stuff. So I think there's nothing to be deflated. And also the fact that we here having these discussions, this wasn't like this 10 years ago. And these guys are scared. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, if it was true they have the upper hand, they wouldn't have put 24 Palestine Action people in prison for no reason at all. They wouldn't have prescribed them. They wouldn't have done any of those things. They do this because of how weak they are. They are weak. They're strong where they can control us without repression, where we voluntarily follow their dictate. They cannot. They have to use brutal force. So it's a lot of reason to be enthusiastic.
I just want to follow on from what the comrade said about being despondent. I feel like in our broad Palestine movement, there's a inability to kind of connect. Oh, sorry, I should have said thank you very much, first of all, Miriam, for your wonderful talk and this up and comer over here, Jonathan. There's a inability in our Palestine movement to connect these wider struggles. People see Zionism as the ultimate enemy, and once that's focused on or defeated, things will go back to normal. People talking about how Britain will be freed from Zionist occupation, and when Britain will go back to normal, how it used to be, which was great apparently. And I assume the US the same. And people are slightly disconnected from what's happening in Cuba and Venezuela. And I just wondered how we can connect these struggles, and for people in the Palestine movement to have faith in the leftist working class struggle. I think people are still not. Some people are feeling like they're not seeing this as a class struggle, even what's happening in Palestine, and they're seeing this as two separate things. And I just was thinking about what NECAP are doing. I don't know if people have seen that NECAP are joining the Nuestra America convoy to Cuba, which is incredible solidarity, and they're showing that these things are not disconnected. And they were talking about Che Guevara's father saying that in my son's veins flowed the blood of Irish rebels. So they're connecting all of these historical struggles. And one of the things I think we need to do is more education, like you were saying, I think. More discussions like this, more history, understanding the different struggles across the world and how they connect. And so that we can, like you said, Miriam, march under a united banner, whether it's against imperialism, capitalism, Zionism. But I don't know what the answer is really, other than more education, more political discussion. But I wondered what you thought about how the Palestine movement ties into the struggle against imperialism in Latin America.
Thank you. Palestine has opened the eyes to many people. Starting, suppose that someone is unable to ideologically connect, but has been so atrocious, the destruction of a population of innocent people, bomb after bomb after bomb, and having the cynicism of in the media say that it's a reaction for what That doesn't have, and nobody swallowed that. It's a justification for the Zionism to expansion and to have more power. That is an imperialism. You cannot fit in the piece of land you have, and you want more, and you need a slave, and you need another one that you consider second-class citizen, or as they say, they are animals. They have said that. Now, what happened in Palestine is known all over the world, even in America. And America is reacting. America is reacting because the little window that Obama left for Americans to come to Cuba, that was like a shower of Cuba couldn't cope with the amount of Americans. They found that we were not monsters. The communists and the people are so happy and so friendly, and they have everything, and there is no poor people, but it is wonderful, and the weather and everything. Then people are not stupid. And also the repression, the racism, which are another feature of the imperialism and the capitalism. They are doing things with the migration, with the migrant, that the own people, that American, cannot cope with that brutality. The police is not a normal police. It's a police that a kind of police that went to Caracas. They treat the civilian of the country in such a way that are producing reaction everywhere. I mean, the United States, sadly, but it seems that is a way that the population is going to learn, is suffering. It's suffering from epidemic of weapons. The killing is constant. The schools are someone mad because the system is not a natural system for the human beings. It generates instability for one side. The other one, the drugs, the enormous, what fentanyl produced and was generated by the government. They talk about the drug that comes from Latin America. They create that. The fentanyl was something created and helped by the government, by the regulation system, to give it to the population, and creating population that were dependent on the fentanyl. And then you have a population that is sick. And those that are also recognizing that they are a sick population. It's a contrast, and we were talking before this meeting started, how it's possible that they vote for Trump. But things are happening, and it will come. The flotilla, the movement in United States is starting. And I think it's also our responsibility to create bridges with them. With the working class in the United States, let them know what the rest of the world think of them. Yeah. And when they say "Make America Great Again," it's a shame. How you want to be the great, and having the rest of the world suffering, and having a Palestine? You should be ashamed for having that. But they need to know that. They need to know that. And we have to create, these have to penetrate them. They try to penetrate us, we have to penetrate them with our ideology.
And just to add up, Puente de Amor was a campaign that led to educate people to oppose the blockade, to do little symbolic things against the blockade. And that, they come right here, just a few of us, a handful, walking all the way here, to the summer, all the way to the, marchando por Puente de Amor, just a few of us. Things have changed. Now we have at a level, and this is another reason why we shouldn't be deflated. So now we have a level where this is not about that anymore. We have NICAP and all these people doing an actual flotilla. The whole world is watching, and everybody's knowing. It's educational. NICAP knows they're not going to break the blockade, but it's educational, it's political. So we shouldn't be deflated, because what we, and I'm just using an example, but what we do at some point 10 years ago, and we do the same now, is being magnified 1,000, 10,000 times. You know, the fact that NICAP and all these people are doing it, everybody's talking about that flotilla. Like million people more than they were talking about Puente de Amor, you know? So these people are educators, they're organizing us, not organizing us, pardon, educating us. It's up to us to organize. And I think again, sorry for being so persistent, but I think that again, what's going on in this camp is very important because it's a school of organization.
And discipline.
Well, my name is Betty. I'm from Platform 12th of October, which now we are member of the Great Britain Anti-Fascist International. In regard of what I heard from the wonderful presentation from both comrades and some of the members of the audience, I would say that Palestine, it came to make a history in humanity because what happened in Palestine, it, as Miriam said, it opened our eyes. Palestine came to make us realize that we are human around all the world in the globe. We are human because we feel sensitive about what is going on, what happened, the killing, the genocide and everything. And the Western countries were just incentivizing this bombing in Palestine. So in regard of the comrade saying that in a pessimistic tone, I would say that that is a step forward. Feeling that is a step forward. Because if we don't feel that, what is going on in the world, it just makes us more blind and static. But feeling that, having that world, what we can do is a step forward. And we have to keep in step by step forward in order to join us, to hear about each other, what they're going to do or what I can do. And one of the two things are key in this step forward that we need to do in order to fight with what is going on in the world. Is one is being anti-imperialist, because if we understand what is going on or what imperialism works, we will realize that we need to do part of the history in order to stop them. And the other thing is being an internationalist. It's maybe could sound like a big word, but it's just being doing international solidarity. And all Miriam has said and Yonatan that we need to do anything, even in needing expressions of resistance, or in the media, or the young people working with the technology that we, the older, are not understanding too much, or being supportive anywhere, with food or anything, flotillas, anything. There is a lot of things that we need to be creative to do our solidarity. And I support what Yonatan and Miriam said, that we need to gather to each other like these events and being marched and read in the news in order to be alert and communicate to think what we can do for our step forward in order to continue with the struggle.
If you allow me to say something, go a little bit away from what we are talking, but we have, as a civilization, learned so much and progressed so much in knowledge that when the world was or is close to have the conditions to provide to all human beings the provision for everybody in the world, we still have this big difference of very small group, very rich, an enormous amount of the world very poor. And science has the possibility, or science and technology, to put all the knowledge and the resources well managed to feed the whole planet and to live in a better condition, but not as a rich individually, because the planet cannot survive if everybody have the life of Trump. If we have millions of Trump, the planet will not exist. Then this is one thing that, as a scientist, I can accept that what the imperialism have done. They say that capitalism developed, but it's a monstrous development, because with knowledge you can provide too much to the country, and Cuba is an example of that. With very little, produced 4 vaccines that were very efficient and no risk. And Fidel Castro said at the beginning of the revolution that everybody has to study, because we have to be men and women of science. The future depends on science. That was in 1960. At the beginning of this century, they were called the Knowledge Society. And we have a scientist in Cuba, which at the same time is a political figure in Cuba, Agustín Laje, director de Centro de Inmunología Molecular Immunology, who wrote a book of the Knowledge Society and the Socialism, and how things could be more efficient having a society that you don't have to be the best, but everybody can work and play a role to build a society that is able to feed the planet and to keep the planet in an ecosystem that we are not the enemy of the nature, and we all survive, and we let the freedom of the people to choose the level they want to be. They want to live in the Amazon and live in that condition, in interaction with that nature. Nothing is wrong with that. We don't have to contaminate these people with consumerism and this, which is the way that they survive, imposing in us fashion and things that are not needed. And that is something that it hurts, because when I came here at the school of my grandchildren, I offered to do things as a scientist for children, and they didn't like it. And I realized that being a scientist, the population see us as you are the evil, because you produce things for the pharmacies, and the pharmacies are rich. They produce, like the story I told you about fentanyl. It was to make rich company. And destroying the society, their own society. They don't care. It's me before the rest. And in Cuba, a scientist is loved by the population. The doctors are the doctor of the people. And when they go international and doing internationalism, they are loved everywhere they go, because they go and stay with the patient. And I live in Louisiana. And when I say, well, where are you from? No, Cuba. Cuba, Fidel, the doctors. Everybody knows. And then when you clap for me, I said, you're clapping Cuba, not me, because it's Cuba we have done that.
I agree.
I changed the topic. Thank you for the speech. Oh, sorry. I don't know. Thank you for the speech, Miriam and Yonatan. I changed the topic. Okay. The USA has always had the power to control the financial system and international trade. I wonder, and also I make many questions on my mind. Why we should listen to other country that doesn't rule us, doesn't govern us,
and I think we should attack the USA where it's hard most, the money. Money gives the power. And also, I am writing my thesis on de-dollarization. In short, if we depend less on the dollar, we reduce his power.
Yes.
And relevant fact, Bolivia, my country, achieved 90% de-dollarization, and curiously, in 2019, a coup d'etat occurred, and the USA was the invisible hand behind it. And also, has Colombia considered has Colombia considered de-dollarization?
Okay, thank you.
Can we say something?
Yeah, you do.
The dollars is controlling everything. For me to do work with Cuba, donation containers to Cuba, I have to go through different paths, because everything that say Cuba, the bank have an algorithm, and they froze the account. And that happened to us many times. And sometimes even we avoid to put the subject of Cuba, but someone, when they have in comments, they say Viva Cuba, boom! At that very moment, the fundraising is collapsed. And that is one of the consequences, is one of the ways that they have us like taken by our nose, like they do with the animals, with the dollar in the market. Fortunately, the BRICS are building a new world, very quietly, but that countries are now exchanging, no dollar, we don't want to do anything with the dollar, with their own currency. And they exchange, and they have, but not all countries. Cuba has not been able to detach itself from the dollar, because our economy, the BRICS are very far, China and Russia, and everything that you try to find, we have sometimes even technology, the electric industry, the producing thermoelectrics are made with French technology. And now that we have to replace a spare part, France, the company that we bought to build the thermoelectric in Cuba, is owned now by the United States. And then Cuba, with the money to pay for the spare part, cannot pay because it's owned by United States. It's the dollar, but it's as well that they control everything. Everything here, you think that is British. No.
When you go and make a search in the company house, you started seeing that through the time, the director started changing, and they live in United States. And this Uber and Amazon, that I don't buy things in Amazon. All the money goes there. But it's a BRICS. The BRICS are getting stronger. The collapse of the American economy, they have printed dollars, and they are producing bonds that countries like this one, it doesn't have a value for that. They are in debt. The debt of the United States is enormous. And the way that they develop with the globalization, that the things are not produced in the United States, they are losing the expertise of the things, because all of that is getting deteriorated, disappearing, because the pain of exploitation abroad.
Hey, about Colombia dollarization, I don't heard any politician proposing that at the moment. And yet the petrodollar, that's one of the reasons why the Middle East is so important today and everything. These regimes, these brutal regimes in the Middle East, are not just vassals of imperialism, in the sense that they have to control the other people, but also they're very important to the petrodollar, because they are like money laundering states. That's all they are, these dictators in the Gulf states. So the money laundering states and because the petrol is the currency, the dollar is the currency of the petrol that helps United States supremacy and everything. So they do all those things. So to reinforce the dollar and all that in his own hemisphere, he does his own thing with the Donald Doctrine. One of those is the shameful shield of the Americas. He invited 12 Latin American presidents to his own garden in Mar-a-Lago, 12 little vassal states, to his own garden. He insulted them in front of the whole world, saying, I'm not going to speak your stupid language. Marco Rubio does, but I don't have to. And they just clapping for him. That is the level of the degeneration of the bourgeoisie of any of these countries. And this is like 60 years after we already have the songs from Carlos Puebla about La OEA and these are jokes, Latin American jokes that we get about OEA. How you call OEA? OAS and things. Yeah. The whole point, sorry, I don't want to divert. The whole point is this, United States would love to continue their supremacy and everything, but they have to face their resistance. The way they want to do that in Colombia, because you asked about Colombia, is that they want to retake the Israel of Latin America. When they lost the Israel Latin America in 2022, when Petro was elected, they lost the biggest ally in the continent, a lackey state, a vassal state. We still have 8 bases. So Donald Trump doesn't want the replacement of Petro, Cepeda, to be a president. We support Cepeda. We want Cepeda to be a president. But we want Cepeda to be president because we want to push for our things, and one of them is to close the bases. Because one of the reasons Venezuela is happening to Venezuela what's happening is because in Colombia we have 9 American bases, and all of them are 9 guns pointing towards Venezuela or Ecuador, which Colombia has attacked 20 years ago, or in Venezuela that Colombia has sent a lot of, Colombia, very disrespectful country to all its neighbors. That's why it was called the Israel of Latin America. So they want to retake that on the elections. They want to do their best. We're trying hard to win it. But it's not just the elections, like the comrades say, it's not just the march, it's not just the elections, it's not just the education, it's the whole package. We want to continue pushing for the bases, because one of the things imperialism is teaching us now, and people in the Gulf country, now they're having to ask a question. Is it true that having an American base keeps you safe, or does it make you a legitimate target? A legitimate target, because these are American bases. It doesn't make us safe. So we want Cepeda to win, but we continue pushing Cepeda government for eliminating the bases, and that's how Colombia can contribute to imperialism, to the fight against imperialism, continue not recognizing Israel, and pushing collaboration with Cuba, and etc. I think comrades have said we only got a few minutes left, so I'm not going to speak more. Just want to hear if there are any more questions here from Miriam.
Hello. Hello. Hi both Miriam and Jonathan. Thanks for coming. So you talked about class consciousness and the importance of class solidarity in an organisation. But we've seen some successes of the labour movement in Europe, in other countries like France, Spain, Italy, Greece, with strikes and blockades and things like that. We haven't really had meaningful industrial action in this country at all. We've had some resolutions passed, but not much more than that, really. I guess the trade unions in this country are quite conservative and quite bureaucratised, and people take the trade union legislation as quite like an absolute block on what you can do and stuff like that. So what would you say workers in this country need to do to get organised? People seem to see the way because the unions are terrible in their current form, they seem to see that as a dead end and be very despondent, actually I'll leave it at that. I was going to have to extra bit of that.
I love your question or your comments. Is we have to move and start thinking what we are going to do to mobilize and make the workers think as the workers and not believing that they are something else. In many countries in the Mediterranean or in Europe, the workers of the port are on strike, and they say we are workers but we are not soldiers. And they are making resistance to work and serve the military actions. We have to do that here. I don't know how I'm going to do it, and if we create a brigade to go and talk, I will be there. And because we have to talk these people. I don't know how we are going to do, but it's not going to come from the sky. We have to work on that. We have to identify. I have been living here many years, but inside me is a resistance of. I'm not happy living here. I want to be in Cuba, but I think it's a time that I start thinking. Come on, Miriam, you're living here. You put and think what will you do here, and we have to places like food banks where you have people. We have to go. Of course, everybody work. I am retired. I have spare time to do these things. We have to work and educate and going to places and I don't know with the working class, with the unions. This is one thing that when I came here at University College London, I wanted to be in the union, and I went to my first union coming from Cuba, and I started saying, wow, there is a space to have more people in the union. I have been asking, and where is one the people, the cleaners, the one in the canteen? He said, no, it's only academic. And in Cuba, we are all the same. I was a scientist from the Ministry of Health, and everybody in the Ministry of Health, from the one that cleaned the floor to the one that operates and make heart transplants, we are all at the same level. And I learned so much from my leaders of the union. I say I learned science at university, but I learned from working class in my place. And when I went to learn things in Germany and Canada, my first thing was coming back to my place of work, and the people that used to work in a lower position because they didn't have education, we training them, and they have a better salary and increase their work. You pass the knowledge, and we are all one. We have to open the eyes of the union, and maybe we have to grow and go by group. Missionarios.
I agree with everything. I agree with everything. Just to add that the workings of the ruling class will help drawing workers to our side, so long as we are doing the right thing. So long as we're keeping the right message, we're doing the right thing, is then how do we do that? Well, the regime is already using the laws against us for the trade unions, the way they use the laws against the trade unions against us. The regime is already attacking the living conditions heavily, which is why they use scapegoats, immigrants are the scapegoats, and etc. The classic one. So the how to do it, like the comrades say, but also don't despair, because they are gonna make sure the workers come to us. So long as we continue in this path, I think we'll meet with workers, and we will need to rejuvenate the unions here and everywhere in the world. Yeah.
Anyone guys? No more questions.
Okay, so in order to continue saying what we're going to decide, yes, because that's the question is talking and everything, but okay, what's next, right? We don't stop. So there is an activity tomorrow in support of Cuba, right?
Yes, in Brixton, and it is in support of Cuba, and it's a fundraising.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I am going. I don't know what I'm going to do there, but I am going. And of course, whatever is in my hands at the moment, I am working. I think I comment with some of them. There was a lot of medicines that were destroyed here in Europe, millions and millions in pounds, for those that the patient doesn't use anymore, return to the pharmacy and the pharmacy destroy, because by law they have to do that. But now is a movement in Europe, and it is ready passing, that those pharmacos, those medicines that are in their lifetime properly, they haven't expired, they are in their own, and have been always in the hands of a professional, like the pharmacist or a doctor or a nurse, could be collected and reused. And I'm trying to make, I am trying, and if someone have any in the union that is in health, in NHS, please, I would like to have that contact, because I have all the theory and the publications in the world why that decision was made, or the reasoning why it was helping the pharmaceutical industry to produce more and sell more, when we can save and use something rather than put it in the destroying. And this is what I want to work for Cuba and for any other country that need it, because it's not fair.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody here. Just to close this again, thank you very much for the community Camp for Palestine, for everything they do, for allowing us to be here, for being so important and so crucial to the movement against imperialism in this country. It's much possible that most of the comrades who are doing all the labor here in the community for Palestine are not figuring out the importance they have. It might take them some years when we look back at this or what this means. So thank you very much for that. And then just to close up, well, we think we have a fantastic learning, want to continue the learning, and then continue coming to the camp. And I think one of the main messages we're taking from here, I think, is that we need to organize. And there are different kinds of organizations for different jobs. The organization that we need to get rid of imperialism is a different kind of organization we have not discussed here yet, but we need to have that kind of discussion. It's going to be an organization that can integrate all the lessons of the working class as an organization, like it happens in Cuba, so that it's not about the leaders, but the leadership. It's an organization like the mini-state, like Cuba, like Comrade Miriam Palacios saying, that in its nucleus is capable of leading the working class to victory. So we have to continue that discussion. That will evolve organically from here. So meanwhile, I just want to say, we resist, and this I'm going to finish, we in Latin America, we resist to be the backyard of imperialism, and we accept our historical task that has been imposed on us by history to be the grave diggers of imperialism. The Donroe Doctrine is going to signal the moment the United States imperialism decided to commit suicide. And we will bury imperialism alive. That's our historical role in Latin America, with our brothers in Palestine and everywhere else in the world who join us.
¡Viva Palestina! ¡Viva Cuba! ¡Viva Cuba! ¡Viva Colombia!
Espérate un momentico.